Is it empathy? Are you a highly empathic person that makes it difficult to navigate relationships? Or are you trapped in a pattern of people pleasing? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Jessica Jones Green. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I work with trauma issues, relationships, such as communication and dealing with conflict, as well as with body issues, things like eating disorders and difficulties with feeling comfortable in your body. And let's talk about empathy versus people pleasing. Straight away off the bat, these two words create different reactions in most of us, in a lot of people. And let's just deal with that straight away. First of all, people pleasing is not a right or wrong thing. For sure, it can have unhelpful consequences in your relationship, in your life, in your mood. But people pleasing makes sense within the context that it develops in most people. So it's more important just to understand it rather than to judge it and not take that negative connotation that we can have with it. Likewise, saying someone is an empath feels like we're giving them a special status, like it's a sort of amazing quality in them. And while, we might agree, really everybody lands somewhere on the scale of empathy, highly empathic or low levels of empathy. And that can shift day to day. Some people maybe gravitate towards one side or the other, but we're all there somewhere. So again, let's not see one as super positive and super negative. The other thing is that can they coexist? For sure. Where do you think therapists come from? Highly empathic people who have a good dose of people pleasing. But seriously, yeah, they can exist together. And let's talk about why and how that happens, because that can really lead us into a deeper understanding of people pleasing, whether or not it is true empathy or people pleasing that makes it hard for you to navigate in conflict, makes it hard for you to get your needs met, makes you maybe stuck in relationships one after another where you're like, this is the same kind of thing and it doesn't feel right. So we know about trauma responses, fight and flight, but there's also fawn. And fawn is where our people pleasing behaviors arise. So when we think about can people pleasing and empathy coexist? For sure. If you are someone who maybe was just born with much more of that kind of antenna to tune in, how are other people feeling, what's going on with them? And then you pair that with situations in life where it is advantageous for your survival to to manage other people's emotions, moods, overwhelming situations, then people pleasing is born. So people pleasing is like that fawn response. We want to attach to other people. We can run away from danger, we can from danger, fight or flight. But fawn is kind of that response that we see, like for example, if you have a mama dog with a bunch of puppies and they're playing in the room and you were to set off a really loud sound, a loud horn, or scare them in some way, they would all go running to mom. That's your fawn response, clinging to the adult for safety when you're young and you're helpless. It's just something natural in a mammal's nervous system. However, for us in the human world, sometimes the ones that we need to be able to attach to are not predictable, are not safe, are not able to regulate our reactions, our nervous system, and bring our body back into that safe place. And so we will feel that need to, maintain that closeness, that relationship, but be stuck in a situation where the only way to do that is maybe to sort of ignore your own fears, your own feelings, your own overwhelm, and manage this other person. Maybe by being very tuned into, okay, are they getting too angry, too tense now? Do I need to somehow make a joke and kind of calm it down a little bit? Do I need to give in? Stop fighting about it. Stop, my emotional reaction to make them okay. Or maybe someone is feeling so overwhelming and dangerous that we're just super tuned into them so that we know when it's time to hide, when it's time to get away, when it's time to shut up in some way. So, in a lot of ways, we can see that empathy is the ability to tune in, and people pleasing is the behavior to manage the overwhelm of the situation, overwhelming relationships, that oftentimes can be linked back to childhood experience. So, why draw this line? Why differentiate between people pleasing and empathy? Well, the main reason is that when we move into adulthood, we take these strategies with us of trying to manage other people, trying to make them happy. While being empathic might be a special gift, might be almost like a superpower, being people pleaser is destructive in your relationships. And again, not about blame, just facts. If you're very focused on other people's emotions and managing them, you may end up in relationships that can feel very one-sided. If you're always giving, giving, and they're always taking, taking. So when we have a people-pleasing strategy that is very strong in us for working with the natural conflicts that come up in relationships, we might find ourselves even in abusive relationships, definitely one-sided relationships, but maybe even abusive relationships. We might find it difficult to advocate for ourselves at work and find those healthy boundaries, even in friendships where we don't feel like we're being constantly trampled on or dismissed or ignored. Often the consequences that we notice even before we can identify people pleasing is that we're feeling very anxious, we're feeling very depressed, we're feeling very overwhelmed. Eating disorders also can arise with some of these patterns of people pleasing. We can use the body, we can use, a sort of outward image to manage how other people think or feel about us, or to create a sort of image of, hey, I'm doing it all right, I'm all okay, when we're really not. What is often the trap for empathic people pleasers in these kinds of situations is that the strategy of people pleasing has been so helpful, so helpful for so long. And stepping out of that is massively uncomfortable. So we will naturally go towards what we know and stay away from the unknown and what we fear. Even if the people who are in our lives now are not going to respond to us in the same way that people in our childhood did, or even if we can appreciate that, okay, my resources are different now, maybe I could cope with it better, just the pure habit, we'll find ourselves almost, when it's an ingrained pattern, almost going to it without realizing, oh my goodness, this is people pleasing. So that leads us to, well, what do we do? How do we break this? If you want to, say, keep the empathy part, get rid of the people pleasing part, how do we go about doing that? The first thing is possibly tuning into yourself a little bit more, in the development of that skill of managing other people, of pleasing other people. We've often taken how we felt and set it to the side, or even deprioritize that compared to others. So used to, okay, I just feel that way, whatever, or even just not being aware of the feelings because we're so used to it. What can help us to tune in? Taking some time. I wish there was a quick and easy way to just instantly tune that antenna back inwards. But, thinking about the idea of, okay, you're really well tuned into how they feel. How do you feel? And if it's a struggle to know, or when you tune in, maybe it feels overwhelming, some strategies may be to sit down with a piece of paper and write for yourself everything that you can feel. Even though it can feel overwhelming, it may be useful to get into some sort of relaxing position, relaxing room where you can tune into your breath and your breathing and ask yourself, what am I feeling now? What is really happening to me? Learning more also, second thing, learning more about assertiveness, what that looks like, what healthy conflict resolution, what healthy communication actually looks like, not just from yourself, but what does it look like when others are communicating with you in a healthy way? It can be very difficult when we're trapped in these patterns to even identify, is how they're talking to me normal and healthy, or is it, take from, a place of being used to me being a people pleaser. So to navigate those shifts, reading more about assertiveness, learning more about assertiveness, sort of reality testing a little bit. Certainly, of course, working with a supportive person, a therapist, particularly a therapist who has experience working with family issues, trauma, childhood experiences in dysfunctional families, who can help and guide you around what healthy sounds like, what healthy looks like, and how to begin to let that empathy flow inwards towards yourself and not just solely outwards in that people pleasing way. So I would love to hear from you, your experiences with maybe being trapped in people pleasing, maybe your empathic qualities getting the best of you and working against you. Let me know in the comments. Questions as well, always welcome. Ideas for future videos. Naturally, yes, of course, your like and your subscribe. I would be so honored. And until next time, be well.